I'm M. Sauter, better known as Pints and Panels.
And I am Don Tess, better known as the Dawn of Beer.
Welcome to episode 61 of the All About Beer podcast. Every 2 weeks, we talk with leading experts. This episode's fun because the leading experts are us. And take a deep,
and I'm just a goofball.
Us. And take a deep dive into one topic in beer. This week on the show, we're gonna, just Don and I are gonna talk about the year in beer and why we love beer so much. It's a celebration.
I love beer.
Yes, you do. Visit allaboutbeer.com and please follow us on social media at allaboutbeer. Patreon.com/allaboutbeer is if you want to support the show and feel generous, please do it. Don, it's just you and me today.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It is nice.
I want to say, one, happy holidays.
To you as well.
And right off the bat, I want to know what was the best beer you had this year? Because I got to know.
You know me well enough to know that I can't pick one. I did.
Yes, you can. Or pick two, then pick three.
There's some recency bias here, but I was in Asheville for Selly Drippings, which was really incredible. More because it's so special than because it was really that phenomenally good. Although it was phenomenally good. I mean, it's Celebration.
Yeah.
It's the Spinal Tap version of Celebration where it's dialed up to 11. What was the best beer you had this year?
I had a bunch. I write an article for Forbes every year where I rehash like the 8 that I really love. And each one is so different. I guess I can't choose one either.
See that?
You know? All right.
Okay. That's the beauty of beer. Anyways.
That is the beauty of beer. We'll be right back in a second to talk about more just the two of us. I love this. But first, if you'd like to help support the All About Beer podcast, reach out to podcast@allaboutbeer.com. Speaking of supporting the show, here is a word from our sponsors.
Welcome to Estrella Galicia, where brewing excellence has been a family tradition since 1906. They're all about lager, rooted in the German brewing heritage. Maintaining their commitment to tradition, they brew exclusively in their original brewery in La Coruña, Spain. Each beer boasts its own distinctive recipe. No shortcuts, no compromises. They shun high-gravity tricks and avoid additives, even in their alcohol-free beers, and stick firmly to traditional methods. Their passion for beer sets them apart as they embrace and celebrate the art of brewing. At Estrella Galicia, they love beer above all things. Experience the difference and know more about it on Instagram at Estrella Galicia USA.
So, Don, we're back.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think now of like what my favorite beer was. You know, I had a really good West Coast IPA in Mexico.
Really? Like what?
Yes.
Actually made in Mexico, or you
Yes,
only
made
had
in
it
Mexico, small
Okay.
brewery.
This is not something I would have predicted.
Yes. So Latin America, especially Central America, they struggle because hops you need to keep cold and you need to ship them cold. And
Yes.
and the supply of hops it's hard to get hops and hops are expensive. So a lot of beers in Latin America and South America have this kind of like just like there's an oxidized oldness to them, and like you kind of know it when you go into IPAs. There's a lot of really great IPAs, but they have this kind of like quality to them. And I was actually with Stephen Beaumont, the Canadian beer writer, who obviously you know, and he ordered it.
All Canadians
and
know all other
all
Canadians.
yes, there's only like 12 of you, so it's fine. And he remarked about its freshness like right off the bat. He was like, "Whoa, what's this?" And I was like, "Can I have a sip?" You know, like, and it's far enough past COVID that like,
Yeah.
sure, let's just drink anyone else's beers now. And yeah,
I do
and
want to.
yeah, it was
Oh,
so good. But it was sorry, I want to say
no.
I want to tell the
Name.
brewery. The
Yeah,
name
name
of
the
the
brewery.
brewery is Cerveza Fervor, and they're in north of Merida, and it's like just a small, and they have a tap room in Merida, and they serve their beers, and like the brewery, the tap room just like lists like the beers don't have names. It's just like IPA, lager,
Love
stout,
it.
yeah, and
There's nothing wrong with that.
the beers were the beer was and it was 5.6%, and I had 4 of them. Not in one sitting, but like
You had 4 of them plus the sip that you stole from Beaumont.
yeah.
So
So, but like over the whole week, I had Like it was excellent. That beer was really good. It was just nice to see. It's just nice to see good beer made other places, you know?
Yeah. One of the things I think is great about beer is that theoretically, unlike wine, which is very much terroir driven,
Hmm.
because the ingredients of beer really can be shipped. I'm not saying it is well shipped right now, but theoretically can be shipped anywhere. There's no reason why you can't get great beer everywhere in the world, and that is one of the things I love about it. So,
I don't know. I think terroir exists in beer because you
it
have
absolutely does.
like
Yes.
water. I think water terroir is like if you have a good well and you have good source to water, I think that that's a huge. I mean, now you have RO and other stuff and that,
Yeah.
whatever. But I think that like there's something really magical about water.
It
Like,
is 95% of beer,
and it's
give or
just
take.
there's like Fox Farm where I used to work in Connecticut, they have a well and their well water is so good. Like the water is really good.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, we
Yeah.
could. Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like this episode is a celebration of beer, and I'm just gonna be like, "Have you tried the water? Let's talk about water."
Oh,
That's everyone's favorite.
can I say I thought of something that I'd been looking forward to doing for a while, and I finally did it this year, beer wise, which is I finally got to have some beer from Cohesion
Oh,
in
nice.
Denver, and I don't Eric
I
Larkin.
do. I do. I go to
Um,
Cohesion every year for a pop-up I do there during GABF.
okay, well,
It's a tradition.
so I write about malt and um, Cohesion. They go to the trouble of actually having custom malted barley, and they want it malted a certain way so that the malt expresses itself better using the decoction method that Eric brews with. And academically, I love this stuff, but I needed to have the beer at the source to appreciate it or be incredibly disappointed with it, which is what I was afraid might happen. But I finally went, and everybody, if you're in Denver, you got to go to Cohesion, amongst all the other places you need to go in Denver. But Cohesion is totally worth it.
Was that one of your favorite things, like tasting rooms of the year?
Yeah, although admittedly it was partially because, Eric was there and we got to nerd out
I
about,
mean, you were talking about malt protein
yeah, and his
levels. Oh, jeez.
horizontal tanks and his spooning valves and all of that.
It's such a nice tasting room too,
And he's got
Cohesion.
Lucre
And
faucets.
it's Lucre faucets, but the vibe is like really, really nice. Like I love when you go to a brewery and their tasting room is, and I think that's actually something that people have really upped their game
Yes,
about.
it's not just like sitting at a old wire spool
Yeah, I was just about to say that fucking wire spool. And that chair,
with the
the
slot in the
with
stool
the
with the
th
slot in the
on the
middle.
butt. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes like your coccyx really hurt, or at least makes mine really hurt. I like should like carry a padded donut, like for when people get like surgery or whatever,
A,
or
a
like a
hemorrhoid
hemorrhoid
donut.
donut. Yeah, I should like because those chairs are awful or stools are awful. And then sometimes they're like, oh, we put a back on it, and that's not helping.
You know how
They're the
some
worst.
tap rooms, if they have an outdoor space with a little fireplace, they'll actually have a little box of blankets that you can
Our
borrow.
we
They
have a
should have the they should have the
Yeah, they
hemorrhoid
should have a
donuts.
box of hemorrhoid. Here's a stool with like a seat. Yeah, because but I feel like I see the stool still, which, but
They're
man,
economic, I
but
assume is why they buy
they're,
them.
yes, yes, and they stack and whatever, and they're easy to carry and they're lightweight. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the stool. I'm telling you, like, it's just that it's people really up there. I went to some really nice tasting rooms that like I would take my mom to,
Yeah.
like, I was just in Vermont actually, and I took my mom to a place called a tap room, and I took my mom to a place called a beer hall,
Ooh.
and I said, do not let these two words fool you into thinking that you're going to someplace with the stool. You will get a good, and we were at the Three Penny Tap Room in Montpelier, which is a wonderful, wonderful bar if you're in northern Vermont. And we were at the Von Trapp Tap Room or the Von Trapp Beer Hall, which my mom had like salmon with roasted root vegetables.
Oh.
And like, I mean,
And all of a sudden, your mom was proud of you again.
and she's always proud of me. What are you
I know.
talking about? But it was just these elevated with the good
Yeah.
glassware, the good seating,
Good
you know,
service.
the good service, the good quality service, the
An
food,
actual printed menu.
Yes. I mean, it's like people have really taken their tasting rooms and
Yes.
have upped the ante. I mean, a lot of tasting rooms are now restaurants because you're
Yes.
trying to get in new
Sometimes
people.
even live music or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and lots of events and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just really nice to see, if you've got a nice tasting room and it's an inviting place that people want to visit, it's not just the beer. The beer isn't a draw anymore. Maybe that's not
Right.
great. But at the same time, there's a lot of things for other people at tasting rooms. And I'm a big,
Well,
yeah.
even if it is a draw, like now there's reasons to stay. Like, you don't just
Absolutely.
have to hope that somebody comes for a pint and then goes out somewhere else for dinner. You can actually have them come and spend hours in your tap room. That's possible now.
Yeah, one of our favorite places to go is there's a brewery in the next town over called New Park, and they have an awesome pizza oven. The pizza is so good. The beer is good. The pizza is very good. The beer is actually quite good.
Yeah.
And they have decent lager program, really nice hazies because I live in New England. It's hazy country. We go specifically like the beer is good, but the pizza oven is the real try. And I took my mom there. Green Goddess salad. She had a lager. She loved the pizza. Um, I think they have the stool, to be honest.
I
Oh
want
no, they
to.
have benches. They have benches. They have
Okay.
benches. So, okay.
I'm not sure I love benches either, but well, sorry, I do like benches in certain. I'm gonna walk that one back.
Yeah.
I want to. I want to take a little bit of a left turn.
Okay.
In 2024, I know
Mm-hmm.
you traveled a lot.
Yes,
You
I
were in
did.
South America, I think 3 or 4 times. You were also in Europe, and then you're always traveling throughout America. So I want to know what your favorite trip was in 2024. Not and specifically for our listeners, something that our listeners can do. So not like something exclusive to AM, something
No,
that
no, no. We went to the Yorkshire Dales in northern England in September, and that was vacation. And my husband and I were in Hawes, which is where the Wensleydale Creamery is, if for Walls and Gromit fame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, cheese. As my That's all I like cheese. That was awful. Let me do that again. And we walked to Hadro, which is like a mile from Hawes. And it was raining, and we went and we had a pint of Theakston Old Peculiar.
Oh,
And that
on hand pump?
on hand pump,
Yeah.
sat outside, it was raining. We had to walk through like wooded areas and then cow pastures. And I got a bag of scampi fries. And we sat outside and I drank this pint. And I told my husband it was the happiest I've ever been in my whole life. And I mean it. I meant that.
Oh, wow. I want to ask you something, Em. In my personal experience, I loved cask ale, a decade ago, 15 years
Hmm.
ago. I went to the Great British Beer Festival like 3 or 4 years in a row, loved it, was a big advocate for cask ale. I felt over recent years that the quality of cask ale, which is in part the breweries and in part the publican, of course, had kind of gone downhill and where when I was in the UK, even I wasn't having a cask ale. But in the so I was in Scotland in March,
Hmm.
and then I flew through London just a few weeks ago. So even at the Weatherspoons pub at Heathrow, I did have a couple of cask ale, and I think the cask ale is getting better again. Like I'm excited for cask ale again, like I haven't been for the last 3, 4 years.
All the
Thoughts?
cask ale I had when I was in Scotland, I was in London for a while. I went to Brighton for the day because I had never been. And all the cask ale I had I think I had like one kind of subpar. But I mean,
Yeah,
look at the cask ale in America. I mean, when
it's
I
all
go,
subpar.
it's no, no, it is not. I was at Fox Farm yesterday with some friends. We always meet before Christmas. They have two hand pumps with cask breathers and really good quality, like the The quality's super good. When I was in Portland, Oregon in March, because I usually judge the Oregon Beer Awards, the cask was stellar. It was
Mm,
really, really good. A lot of breweries are leaning in now to the cask, and they're doing it really well. I mean, one of the
okay.
best beers I had was at Fourland Beer, in they did a collaboration with a brewery called Kings and Daughters, and it was just a travel. It was called Traveler's Rest Best Bitter, and it was happy hour, and they served it to me in a Willie Becker, like a like a half-liter Willie Becker with Christmas decorations on it.
What?
Yeah. And I was like, and it was a Paul, I think it was a Paulaner glass. And I was like, okay. And it was just so like it was so whimsical. The brewery was in an old house and we sat
Hmm.
outside and it was
I
just
feel
like
like cask ale tastes better in an old house.
I think that's yeah, it had a real pub vibe and it was really, really nice. The cask ale
Oh,
was
I don't know
excellent.
how I forgot this. I was in Atlanta or suburb of Atlanta earlier this year for Little Beers in Decatur,
Mm-hmm.
um, Georgia, and I went to Brick's
Brick Store Pub.
Brick Store Pub,
And they do
and they
cask
have that
ales,
little
yeah.
middle, yeah, that middle bar. They have cask ale. Uh, one of I think three places in America, which means three places in the world that you can get Sierra Nevada Pale Ale on cask.
Mm-hmm.
That
See?
was pretty good.
Yeah. All right, we will take a short break. We will be right back after this word from our sponsor, and I want to know about Don's favorite beer travel. So stay tuned.
Indulge in the elegance of 1906 Reserva Especial, a premium Hellesbock with a 6.5% ABV. This exceptional lager brings together brewing tradition, unique character, and the finest ingredients. Brewed with Pilsner and toasted malt and Hallertau Pearl hops, 1906 Reserva Especial is a testament to quality. Its bright amber color and toasted malt aroma are complemented by subtle notes of caramel and coffee, with floral and herbal hints from the hops. Every sip reveals a toasted sensation of warm and a well integrated finish. Experience the art of brewing, 100% made in Galicia, Spain. Know more about it on estrellagalicia.com.
All right, Don. So you just said you were in Scotland. You were in you were in
I was in
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
You were at Little Beer. We went to GABF together. So, what was your favorite like beer travel story like that you had this year?
Um, I went to Medellin, Colombia.
Oh, that Latin America. I'm
Yeah, to
telling you.
judge. Yeah, and so I echo what you say. Like I was very surprised at how good the beer was there, and
Hmm.
I'm not very well traveled in South America, and so it was a new experience for me. People are super friendly. I went to judge a beer competition called La.
Is it Palo Dorado?
Thank you.
Right. You're welcome.
Your Spanish is better than mine.
I am taking
Um,
classes.
um, which obviously not everybody can go judge that competition, but I would encourage people to go to Latin America generally to try beer because you will be surprised. And not only are they making what I'll call classic craft beer styles very well, they're
Hmm.
also being imaginative and inventive. Like that is where, of course, Catarina Sour comes from. And I'm drawing a blank on a couple of the names now, but
They
even when I
have
was judging, I judged a couple
yeah,
styles I'd never had before anywhere else.
IPA Argenta from Argentina.
Yeah.
There's a
There was
bunch
a
of other
golden
ones.
ale that I had that,
Oh, yeah.
anyways,
Well, I so
lots of cool things.
I judged when I was in Merida. I was judging the Dia de los Muertos competition there, and they had two new styles they had invented for the competition. One was people brewing Dia de los Muertos style beer, so flavors of Dia de los Muertos. So they have the special like bread. It's a pan dulce, so it's like a donut called
Oh,
pan de muerto. It's made with cinnamon. It's like sugar covered, and it's made with orange and anise. So there was a
oh,
lot of like pastry stouts with that flavor, the flavor of the brewing with the orange marigold, which is the symbol of Dia de los Muertos. And then they had a different style of beer called the ofrenda beer. So ofrenda is person has died. You invite people into your home and you give them things that the person who's passed away loved. So if they
oh,
loved whiskey, you gave them their favorite whiskey, or if their favorite food. And so there were beers brewed as ofrenda. So like my uncle has passed away and he loves Scotch. So I brewed this like Scotch ale aged in Scotch whiskey barrels as a ofrenda to him. And it
Mm,
was such a cool new way to think about beer. The Dia de los Muertos beer that won the best of show was when the women go to the graveyard, they wear a shawl that they usually keep in a cedar chest.
okay.
So the beer was based off of like cedar, and then
Oh.
it was really cool. And like
So,
how inventive and cool is that?
this this is what I was just about to say is that earlier I said how I love, beer can be made anywhere. But even though
Hmm.
beer can be made anywhere, it can also be it's a great canvas for interpretation and
Absolutely.
making it, a country's own or a
Yep.
culture's own. This is why we're celebrating beer. I love
Yes.
beer.
So I do want to switch gears slightly because it is the holiday season.
Yes.
And I just wanted to ask, what do you think why the holidays make a great time for beer? Besides like, drinking too much to ignore your uncle talking about, I don't even know what's going on right now. But
There's nothing interesting going on in
there's
the world
nothing,
right now.
no,
Um,
2024 is really boring.
So I think that beer is the most social of beverages. Nobody like, I mean, yes, people have wine and cheese and whatever, but nobody shares a pitcher of wine at the pub or what like.
Mm,
And so the holidays is a time for us to celebrate our family and our friendship. Not just celebrate our friends and family, but celebrate with our friends and family. And I think there's no better beverage to do that than beer. I mean, yes, maybe there are people who want to have wine with the dinner, but of course, there's always the festivities before dinner while you're cooking or just unwrapping presents. And, it's okay to have a beer in the morning when you're unwrapped. Like, I'm not saying people should do this every day, but it's the holidays. So why not, right?
I love getting beers that people will really like. So like my husband's uncle comes up from Massachusetts and he's a big IPA guy and so I always make sure to have certain beers and we have a cooler that we put out next to the TV because the football game's on and so people can pull what they like. I love Belgian quads and so I get
Yes.
very excited for Christmas because you get all the Belgian Christmas beers, and those are great to share, especially if you can get them in the large format bottle and they're like 10%. And they're so good. They're just like, those beers are so, so good. And they're great to age too. So,
Yeah.
like buying a 4 pack, putting a couple in the basement or in the cellar, and then just, sharing them, watching good Christmas movies.
That was
Yeah.
also one of my favorite beers this year. I had a Belgian quad from Russian River that was
Oh,
to die
nice.
for. Yeah. I had it at GBF, but you just
I,
made me
yeah.
think of that.
I wrote an article for Forbes about Belgian Christmas beers and what makes them Christmas and ones to seek out. And so I had to go and try them all to make sure they all
Of course.
tasted good. Of
It's
course, I mean,
yeah,
of course, it's
it's
journalism,
research. Yeah.
it's research, and they were so good. You know what? The one that really knocked my socks off was the Delirium Noel.
Oh yes.
And I think a lot of people like kind of like, I think of like Delirium's restaurant in Brussels and it's just full of like 18-year-olds making out and it's
And
rowdy and like,
yes, it's a tourist
but
trap.
it's a tourist trap and it's cool. You should go. It's definitely worth a visit. And so I don't know. I always think of, but the beer, I always forget the Delirium Tremens and Delirium are so good. And it comes in that cool stone looking bottle with
I
the,
have a hot
yeah.
take.
Oh,
That
okay.
Delirium Tremens beer, it's very good. I,
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with you, but that same brewery makes a beer called La Guillotine,
Okay.
which
I
I
don't
think
think,
is better.
can you only get that in Belgium?
I used to buy it here in Canada,
Okay.
so I think it is distributed. But
Oh,
anyways, look for
okay.
that one. The
I
same kind,
will.
that ceramic bottle, it's the same kind of bottle, but you know
Yeah.
how Delirium has the blue foil on top?
Yes.
La Guillotine is red foil. So
Oh,
keep your eyes out for that one.
oh, I will. I will. Yeah, there's just so much good like Christmas beers. We have in America, we have a lot of really good Christmas beers. Um, what's the Canada Christmas seasonal like? Are there Canadian breweries that lean into this?
We do a lot of, I think we do barley wines very well.
Ah,
And there's a, yeah, so there's a couple, and we like to vintage date our barley wines. So I always look forward to every year trying the new vintage of barley wine.
Mm-hmm. Of
And you know me, I'm very judgmental. So there's times
course.
where like, yeah, I don't like this year's barley wine.
Mm.
But then of course the converse of that is there's years where I'm like, oh my God, this is the best year ever. I love this barley wine. So yeah, we lean heavy into barley wine, I would say.
What breweries in Canada are brewing good barley wines right now? Any shout outs?
So the one I always, and they typically release it in October,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a an OG uh, uh, craft brewery here called Brewsters.
Okay.
Their
Is that
barley
in
wine is
Calgary?
is here in Calgary, yes.
Okay.
So they make a Blue Monk barley wine. Sometimes they barrel age it, sometimes they don't. This year was
Mm-hmm.
not. This
Mm-hmm.
year was exceptional. Like I,
Lovely.
it
Is it in
was.
a bottle or can or there's
This year I think was draft only. Sometimes they
oh,
do package it, but
okay.
this year I believe it's draft only. There's a brewery in Edmonton called Alley Cat that makes a barley wine called Old Deuteronomy.
Mm-hmm.
I have not had this year's vintage yet. I don't even know if they made it this year, but I hope they did. That's also another very good one. I quite like that one.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Love me
And
a
then like
barley.
what's the ABV of these? Like 10?
Yeah, in
Higher?
that range,
Okay.
nine to 10. Yeah.
Normal. And we're talking English barley wine, so like a lot of toast like toast and caramel and coffee flavors and dark fruit and
Yeah, we lean more into the dark fruit, I would say, figs
okay.
and what.
Yeah.
Although the Blue Monk, I get like cinnamon and biscuit and gingerbread cookies, that type of.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. I've had four of them. I've had four Blue Monk barley wines so far.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's
Uh,
really good this year is what you're
I
saying.
really and I mean, you know me. I
I do
rarely
know.
have the same beer twice.
That is
But
true.
I've had four Blue Monk
Wow.
barley wines this year.
Okay.
Yeah. Big
Wow.
fan.
All right. So I guess to finish up our conversation, it's the end of the year. What are you most looking forward to in beer in 2025? Like, what's a positive take that people can take into 2025?
Um, yeah,
Or if you have, if you, what?
no,
Of
I am
course you do.
always, there's always good and bad in everything. Even at the peak of craft beer, there were some breweries making not very good beer and everything. And
Hmm.
I think that I'm not so optimistic as to think that, craft beer is going to experience double-digit growth again. I don't think
Yeah.
that's going to happen. But I do see breweries doing interesting things, leaning into like not all just making hazy IPA with Mosaic and Citra. There are breweries leaning heavy, not just making lager, but leaning into high quality lager, thinking about the malts and grains they're using, thinking
Hmm.
about the geometry of their fermenter, thinking about their water, thinking about all of these things. And that's wonderful. And thinking about hospitality, I think that's wonderful. I see beer. There's always going to be something cool and interesting happening in beer. We've both traveled a lot. We've both seen a lot of things, and we were both wowed by various things this year. So yeah, I'm always
Yeah,
optimistic. And
that's
you,
true. You and I were at GABF together, and I thought the quality of the beers that we tried were really,
yes.
I think it was the strongest that I've usually at JBF, you're walking around, you're like, oh, I don't know this brewery. Take a sip, and sometimes it's not great. Sometimes it's not. That's how it is.
Yeah, it's true.
But I felt like this year there was a lot of like, oh, I've never heard of this brew before. Wow, this is really good.
Yeah. Third eye.
Well, yeah, that Third Eye Pumpkin Stout, and I went back for more. That was one of my top 8 beers of the year that I wrote
There
about,
you
and
go.
that beer
Wow.
was so good. And like, like pumpkin, like don't knock the pumpkin,
Right?
people. Pumpkin beers can be really good. Pumpkin stout, more pumpkin stouts, please. Um, yeah, I just think that the quality of beer, I think there's a lot of good beer and then there's a lot of great beer out there. And I think we need to focus more on like just who's making great beer. Let's shout their name from the rafters. Let's, make sure that people know that, man, these people are doing really, really good work, be it, Cohesion or, anyone else that's making Third Eye, anyone who's making like super good beers. Because there's a lot of really, really great
Yeah.
beer out there, and it just makes me really, really excited to try. And then there's new breweries opening up still, like people, a lot of breweries are closing. Connecticut, where I live, a lot of breweries are closing, but we just got a new brewery this year, and I actually just wrote about it called Dead Language Beer Project, and they have a root beer. They're doing red lager. They have
Oh,
one
roach beer.
IPA
Yeah. Okay.
root beer. Yeah, yeah, root
Yeah.
beer.
I
They're
thought you said
doing
roach beer and I got all
no,
excited, but
they're also
roach beer
doing
is
that.
exciting too. Yeah.
They're doing a couple of those, and then they're brewing a lot of classic styles, focus on lagers. They have one West Coast IPA, no hazies, which is, I mean, I like hazies, and we're in New England, so I'm kind of like, where's the hazy? It's fine. They do a classic Berliner Weiss called Twin Snakes, named after the Haribo gummies, and it's a nice vibe. They took over another brewery that had closed, and so it's cool to see new things still happening
Yeah.
when a
Hey,
lot of people are like, "Oh, things are closing, things are closing." And it's like, "No, no, things are opening and they're good."
Can I give us a pat on the back? You and
Yeah,
I?
100%.
Because I love co-hosting this podcast with you.
Oh,
Um,
likewise. Right back
it's
at you, buddy.
first of all, it's fun and everything, but I actually think we like people listen. I was at a brewery called Diatribe,
Mm-hmm.
and I was sitting at the bar because I was traveling by myself. I was just talking to the bartender, and the brewer comes out from the back and he says, "Oh, I thought I recognized your voice." He recognized my voice. And then he talked about how he listened to the vanilla episode. And if everybody hasn't listened to that, go back and listen to the
One of
vanilla
my favorite
episode.
episodes of all
And
time.
so he goes back and he brings out a whole bunch of 10 packages of different Jones and Co. vanilla beans that he had purchased
Mm-hmm.
after listening to our vanilla episode podcast. Like people are listening and they're actually trying new vanillas. They're trying. There was another person I met who told me that they changed their cold IPA recipe based on something that was said
Our very
which was our
first
very first
episode.
episode.
Our very first
So
episode.
we're doing cool things, Em. I think we should be proud of ourselves for that.
Well, that is so nice. Like it's a joy to talk about beer with you, Don, as always. And I'm really glad that, yeah, thank you to our listeners. And I'm glad that we can have an impact, be it, good or I don't, who
Just
knows?
good. Only
Just good,
good.
just good, just good. That makes me really, really happy. I'm looking forward to the future of this podcast as well as the future of beer. So
Yes.
wonderful. And I think with that, I think that ends it for today. So if you enjoy the All About Beer podcast, please thank our sponsors. Um, and visit allaboutbeer.com and follow us on social media at All About Beer. And again, if you're feeling generous, please visit patreon.com/, All About Beer to support this show and others. If you have any questions for the experts, email podcast@allaboutbeer.com. That's also the email for feedback, suggestions, or to inquire about supporting the show through advertising. Don, how can people reach out to you?
I am at the Dawn of Beer on X Threads, Blue Sky, and Instagram, and people can drop me an email at dawn@thedawnofbeer.com, especially if you did something because you heard about it on the podcast. I really, really love
We would love
hearing
to hear
those
about that.
stories. Yeah.
Yes.
Em, how can people get in touch with you?
Um, I am at Pints and Panels across all social media, and my website is www.pintsandpanels.com. And we forgot to mention that I have a new book out,
Yes.
which we forgot to talk about because we were too busy talking about water, which everybody loves. So if you're interested, it's called Pairing Beer with Everything. It's a collection of all my infographics, and you can buy it through my website at pintsandpanels.com. And it's really cool. It pairs beer with everything from world food. I had a lot of really great friends from Latin America help me with the Latin American beer and food pairing, to pop culture, to seasons, to you name it. So,
Everything. Literally
yes,
everything.
literally pairing beer with everything. The name is apt. So,
Yes.
yeah. So if you enjoy the show, please share with your friends, post about us on social media, and like and subscribe to the show. Please help us spread the word of good beer. And here's a final word from our sponsor.
Discover 1906 Reserva Especial, a distinguished Hellesbock with 6.5% ABV that embodies brewing heritage and unique character. Made with the finest Pilsner and toasted malts and Hallertau Pearl hops, this lager delivers a truly elegant experience. Its brilliant amber hue and toasted malt aromas, enriched with caramel and coffee notes, are perfectly balanced by the floral and herbal nuances of the hops. On the palate, toasted flavors dominate, offering a warm, harmonious finish. Brewed entirely in Galicia, Spain, 1906 Reserva Especial embodies the highest standard of excellence. Know more about it on estrellagalicia.com.
This show is produced by All About Beer. Visit allaboutbeer.com for articles, notes on this show and others, and to connect via the social media. Visit, let's read, connect via the newsletter and social media. Cheers, Don. Happy holidays.
Cheers. Happy holidays to good beer.
Cheers to good beer.